Well, good morning everyone and welcome back. So it has been nearly a month since the last time we checked on the moisture content of our firewood stack here. So let's pull a few pieces and see if it's progressed any. If you remember, it was about 2 months ago we cut this firewood with the hope that it would dry down to dry enough, at least in about 5.5 months. At this point we're maybe 3.5 months out, and I'm hoping for the 20% mark by the middle of November, which is usually about the time we start needing firewood around here. So let's get a couple off the top and maybe one from the middle if I can get one out, and we'll check it out. It's just much tougher to find one in the middle here that the stack will give up, but that one will do. So here's one of our pieces right here from the top of the stack, and it's pretty obvious that we've got quite a bit of moisture left in this wood. If you look at it closely, you can kind of see it's much darker. This is white oak, by the way. Much darker right in this area right here, and I can actually feel moisture right there. So let's check it out. Not expecting great things here. Yeah, so we're almost at, well, it's about 34%. And on the very outside of that piece, we get about 18%, which is way, way better. This is the piece that was down toward the middle of the stack. Of course, it's much, much smaller, so maybe it's a little bit better. Yeah, so we're looking at about 28% there. I wonder if I can turn off the sound on this thing. That's rough on the camera. So this is a good example right here. So this is the outside of the firewood right here. And right there we get about 21%. And then if we flip it over to the side that I split it from, you're looking at 26%. Here's the other piece that was on the top here. About 22, about 18, 18, and about 18. So I don't know, maybe the top pieces are drying just a little bit faster. I'm not sure. So yeah, our firewood is drying out, but it is doing it awfully, awfully slowly. If it gets closer to time and it's still really, really moist like this, I may just get the old solar kiln going and put a bunch of this stuff in there and get it dried out quick. We'll see. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. My wife and I just went on a walk, and that takes 20 or 30 minutes. It's a good time to think and just talk and so forth. And the more I thought about this firewood situation, the more I realized those are not going to be dry by the middle of November, probably nowhere near. So let's go see what the condition of the solar kiln is, and I think we're going to have to consider kind of restoring it just a little bit and getting this wood in there. Actually in a lot better shape than I expected, and it's actually a lot more spacious than I remember it being. So of course there's a lot of plants and stuff that have grown up in here, but I mean everything's real solid still. Everything's very, very solid. Floor is not rotted out to speak of, and yeah, there's a little insulation that's left up here, and I think we can get it going just for this purpose. Forgot that I put this little thermometer, little thermometer right here. The only downside for that is you've got to come in here when it's 150 degrees and check on it. I know that there's a sensor for another thermometer in here. Let's see if it's still out here. Ah, it is still out here. I thought I took this down. So this is like a 2-part thermometer. This side measures the, I think that's the outside temperature, the inside temperature, and that's the inside temperature. And if that still works, that'll be handy. Really expected to find some red wasps or guinea wasps or at least a rattlesnake out here, but I guess it's not too late. So here's what I want to do. I want to go ahead, these used to have wooden doors on these ends right here, but they're long since fallen off and gone. So what I want to do is just plug these ends up with some tarps, and later on today we'll come out and see what kind of heat we're getting. This should be a great day for it. It's going to be very, very hot today. Remember when I used to use this, I would get like 150 degrees, probably plus, out of this thing. So let's see what we get. That should do for now. That's a little bit janky, but I just really want to see what kind of temperature it's holding at this point, and we'll make it a little bit better once we get the firewood in here. Probably still use the tarps, but I'll attach it just a little bit differently. So this right one here is our inside temperature, left one is outside. The right one is holding at about 92 right now, and we'll come back in a couple hours and see what it's looking like. It's the time of the morning where sunlight is just starting to hit these panels right here, so it should be beginning to heat up pretty quickly now. I get questions in the comments pretty frequently about whatever happened to the solar kiln. I had a series several years ago, probably a 6 or I think it was a 10-part series actually, of building this solar kiln, and people still ask, well, what happened to the solar kiln? And the answer is, well, it's still here. I just really don't use it, and the reasons that I don't use it, there's two main reasons. One, I don't need it that bad. It's fine for me just to stack lumber, cover it, and let it air dry. That works perfectly well for me, and that means I don't have to load the kiln and then unload it. It cuts the work. I just have to wait for it to dry a lot longer. Also, the loading situation on this thing, most solar kilns are open from the back. They have big, long, wide doors. Much easier to load from the back. When I designed this, I made a huge mistake and put doors on the ends, and of course that means you have to bend over, pull boards in, push boards in, and it's extremely labor intensive just to get stuff inside of this kiln. Then you have to repeat the whole process and take it back out. It was basically a backbreaker to use, kind of a poor design. It actually worked extremely well. This thing would take 1-inch pine boards and dry them down to 5% moisture in about 30 days. It had fans in it, and man, it worked extremely well. So those are the answers. It's very difficult to use, and I just really don't need it all that bad, but it does work, and I think we're going to try to make it work for my firewood. I've been wanting to make some rocket stoves to have this winter, and since we're getting the solar kiln going again, I figure it's probably a good chance to make them and throw them in there and get those dried down as well. My regular chainsaw had a minor heart attack. Should be able to fix it, but for now, let's see if we can sharpen the chain on the old 65 here and see if it'll do the job, although it's kind of living on a prayer too. You come out here to find some cool concrete? Is that what you did? Hot weather's rough when you're this old, isn't it, buddy? Take a break. Gonna have to fix this too. 50-year-old chainsaws love to give you trouble. Actually, I think I just had too much rope in here, so I've got it shortened at this point. Snip that off and burn it, and maybe it'll go. All right, it's back together. Let's see how it goes. Turn it on, dummy. So what I want to do is I want to take these sections of pine logs that I cut off of some bigger logs in the last video, and I want to take 3 of these and I want to make rocket torches, Swedish rocket stoves. There's kind of different designs, and I think they're all kind of different things, but we're going to call this a rocket torch, I guess. Basically, it's the same concept as I attempted to use burning that stump a few videos ago. It's going to be a hole down through the center of this log and one lower down through the side, and basically once it dries out, we can take it and start a fire in the bottom there, and the draft that it creates basically a torch that comes up through this center right here, and it burns for a good little while. And I did one of these several years ago. It was really cool, and I want to do some more. I think they'd be really fun come this winter time at night when we like to do fire pits around here. So yeah, let's see if this saw will last through the whole thing. Old saws like this have a tendency to just kind of get tired after a while and have to cool off, but hopefully she'll work the whole time. My original thought there was to make kind of a big square hole, one going in the side and one going in the top, but it seemed like the width of that chain was actually making a pretty decent size hole right there. So I think we'll just leave it at that. And they're all connected. This is connected to that main shaft there, and I think that raggedy stuff like this will dry out extremely well and be a whole lot easier to start up in the winter time. So all I really need to do now is put these in the solar kiln and get them dried out really good, and these should be a blast in the winter time. Speaking of the solar kiln, let's go over there and see what the temperature is looking like. I think it's been maybe 2 hours or so since I closed up those ends, and maybe an hour or so ago I just kind of stuck my hand in there and it was getting really hot. So let's check it out. Yeah, it's pretty toasty. I'm not sure that this thermometer is actually working anymore. It might be. It's showing like 113 or so, but I really think it's higher than 113 in there. No, I guess that's correct. It's holding about 113, 150, maybe 125 actually, somewhere along in there. I'll staple that back up and check it again later this afternoon. 125 is a whole bunch better than 90, and once I get some fans in there, 125 degrees plus airflow, it's going to be pretty good. And I do think it's going to get hotter in there. Something I just thought of, I bet most of the really hot air is in the top of the kiln, and once I get airflow going in there, I bet a lot of that will come down. So I bet it's actually much hotter towards the top. In fact, I'm going to lay this thermometer right up here so we get a reading up towards the top there. I got to get out of here. It is unbelievable in here. At this point, we're going to switch gears just a little bit. It is super hot this afternoon, so I think it's a good time for a field trip to Woodbury, Georgia, to Big Mouth Blades to pick up a set of sawmill blades for the sawmill. Sound good? What you think? Okay. We're back at the house, and that was kind of a bummer of a trip. One of their fabrication machines, I suppose, broke down and they didn't have the blades ready. So we'll try again maybe tomorrow on that. But right now, let's check on the heat of the solar kiln. This is actually not the best time to check. It's actually about 6:30 in the evening, but we'll check anyway. Just over 100 at this point. I really wish that I had been here to measure it in the peak heat of the day, but earlier y'all saw that it was at 125 degrees. The internet tells me that at 125 with lots and lots of good airflow, I can actually dry down those oak pieces of firewood, white oak firewood pieces in about 4 weeks. And I believe it. It used to be able to dry pine lumber in about a month. I bet 4 to 6 weeks would get that knocked out. So I think we're going to do it. I think we're going to repurpose the solar kiln and get that firewood dried down. So this is going to be a whole lot better here. The road is where the tractor is right there. I'll be able to bring the Jeep and the trailer down here full of firewood, load one trailer load on this side all the way to the halfway mark, and then come with the next trailer load and just bring it around the front here. And I'll have to clear that stuff out by hand. That tree is really big. Plus there's some concrete blocks right there. There's a stump right there that I won't have to bother with, but it was because of that stump I couldn't just push all of this stuff over. Plus there's a pile of old rotten lumber that used to be that used to be the back porch of this thing, and it's over there, and I took a risk going through it. I don't know if there's nails in there or not. I guess I'll find out in the morning when I look at the tractor tires. But anyway, this is going to be great. I think I'll be able to dry down that firewood pretty quick. So it's really easy to think about the tremendous effort that this is going to be with the trailer loads of firewood. It's almost 2 cords of wood that I'm going to have to move and stack and then take out of the solar kiln and restack it back in the woodshed over there. However, I also have this visual image of me at the fire this winter trying my best to get wet wood to burn and regretting not putting this firewood in the solar kiln while it was hot and I had the chance. So it's gonna be a tough project, but it'd be a lot tougher trying to burn green wood this winter, so I'm cool with it. So there's just no way I was gonna get all of that firewood in the kiln today, and that really was not my intention. What I wanted to do was just kind of go to it and see how feasible it was to use the kiln, to see what the temperature was looking like, to see if it was still good and stable, and maybe clean up around it some. And it's gonna work great. It's stable, it's plenty good for that, and it is getting really hot in there. All I have to do now is get some fans down there, get some electricity down there, and then put maybe some bunks on the floor, and then put the firewood in there. And that's gonna be an operation. That's gonna be kind of an ordeal, but it's gonna be worth it when I'm trying to start a fire this winter, and instead of getting the sizzles out of the ends of the sticks of firewood and the little bubbles and steam coming out, I'm gonna get the crackles, I'm gonna get the pops, and I'm gonna get really good high quality coals that just sit in there and last all night and leave very few ashes. Yeah, so that it's gonna pay off then. It's not gonna pay off now when I'm doing it in 95-degree weather, but it's gonna pay off in the wintertime when it's 20 degrees outside and I've got a perfect fire in the fireplace. So I don't think I'm gonna regret doing this. So before we shut off this video, I wanted to give an update on the lumber situation from the last video. So the whole point of the last video was that I was having trouble selling lumber, and I was cutting lumber, I was posting lumber for sale, custom lumber at 90 cents per board foot, and people just were not buying it. And so I read through all of the comments on that video, and the consensus, and thanks for those comments, by the way, thanks for the encouragement, thanks for the suggestions and so forth, but the consensus was, and this is kind of the way I was leaning, is that I was just not being competitive with the big box stores. So a big box store can sell a 2x4x8, of course nominal dimensions, 1.5 by 3.5, 2x4 by 8 for like $3.15, $3.25, something like that in my area, which comes down to 90 cents per board foot. And mine, I was actually selling 2x4x10 full dimensions, full 2 inches, full 4 inches for $4.50. So I did knock some off of the price, but it just wasn't quite enough. That comes out to like 68 cents per board foot. So yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I would not have purchased my 2x4s either if I can run to Home Depot and get kiln dry and lumber for basically the same price, possibly a little bit cheaper. So what I have done for my lumber sales is I have lowered the prices. Not a whole lot of things go down in price these days, but my lumber has. So these I have posted for $3 a piece. And if you're thinking that sounds cheap, yes, it is quite cheap. It comes out to about 45 cents per board foot. Now, for custom lumber like 1-inch stuff, I'm still at 90 cents a board foot, because if you go to Home Depot and get a 1x12 pine board, you're going to end up paying $3 plus per board foot. And I actually had somebody out here yesterday that bought 7 1x12x12 beautiful pine boards for that price. Ended up being about 75 bucks, and man, I think it's a steal to get 1x12x12s for 75 bucks, 7 of them. So yeah, I've lowered my prices, and it does sound quite low, $3 a piece, but I'm getting business now. That guy came yesterday and he purchased custom lumber, and I have to cut some 4x4s for somebody tomorrow. I potentially have somebody coming this weekend with logs, and I'm gonna charge him an hourly rate to cut up his logs. And I've had all kinds of interest in not just the ones that I have, but others that I can cut. So lowering the price on these has led to other business on the sawmill. So I don't regret this at all. And also at the price that I had it at, I'm just afraid those logs would have sat there and rotted away, and that would have been really a tragedy. But anyhow, things are going a little bit better after that video. So thanks a lot for the comments. Thanks for the encouragement and the suggestions and so forth. And I appreciate y'all watching that one. Certainly appreciate you watching this one. And I'll see y'all in a few days on the next one.